StrengthsFinder 2.0 by Tom Rath. Picture this, a guy who's 5'6" and barely 165 pounds dreaming of playing college football. In that world, he might as well be invisible. His name was Rudy Rudiger, and he had this one burning dream to play for the Notre Dame Fighting Irish. Everyone around him said forget it, too small, too slow, zero natural talent. But here's the thing about Rudy. The kid had heart for days, so he got to work. He literally worked as a groundskeeper at the stadium, just to be near the field. The university rejected him 3 times before finally letting him in. When he made the practice squad, his entire job for 2 years was basically being a human punching bag for the real players. Day after day getting knocked around, never suiting up for an actual game. But quitting? Not in his vocabulary. Fast forward to the final game of his senior year. Victory's already in the bag, and his teammates are practically begging the coach to let Rudy play. The coach gives in. In those final precious seconds, Rudy gets sent in for one play. He bursts through the line and takes down the opposing quarterback. The crowd absolutely loses it, chanting his name while his teammates carry him off on their shoulders. They literally made a movie about this moment. It's the ultimate underdog tale, right? Pure American dream stuff. It celebrates this message we've all heard a million times since kindergarten. You can be anything you want to be if you just try hard enough. But here's a wild thought. What if that message is actually wrong? What if Rudy's inspiring story, as heartwarming as it is, actually hides a fundamental misunderstanding about how human potential really works? After thousands of hours of practice, Rudy played for a few seconds and made one tackle. We're celebrating him for overcoming his weaknesses. But what about the people who succeed specifically because of their natural, God-given talents? Today, we're diving into a book that sparked a massive global conversation by challenging this exact idea. It's called StrengthsFinder 2.0, written by Tom Rath, a researcher at the legendary Gallup organization. This isn't your typical self-help book gathering dust on a shelf. It's the result of decades of research based on studying millions of successful people, from top-level executives to the world's best teachers and salespeople. It's built on the life's work of Dr. Donald Clifton, who earned the title Father of Strengths-Based Psychology. The promise here is simple but revolutionary. By the end of this, you'll understand why obsessing over your weaknesses is what the author calls the path of most resistance. And you'll discover the secret to unlocking exponential growth, not by fixing who you aren't, but by becoming way more of who you already are. From day one in school, the system is designed to hunt down our flaws. You bring home an A in English, a B in history, and a D in math. Where does everyone's attention zoom to? That D, of course. We get math tutors, we're told to work harder on numbers. A Gallup poll found that a whopping 77% of American parents believe a student's lowest grades deserve the most time and attention. We basically reward excellence with a shrug and pour all our energy into our shortcomings. This pattern follows us straight into our careers. Performance reviews laser focus on our areas for improvement. We get shipped off to training programs designed to help us become someone we're not. That star salesperson gets promoted to sales manager, only to discover she doesn't have the natural talent for developing other people. She works herself to the bone, sacrificing health and family, trying to fix a deficit that was never meant to be a strength in the first place. Society has this relentless obsession with what's wrong with us, but what if this entire approach is completely backward? This question consumed Dr. Donald Clifton for over 50 years. He looked around and saw a world overflowing with languages to describe our faults and disorders, but no common language for describing our talents. So in 1998, he and a team of scientists at Gallup did something extraordinary. They dove into their massive database of interviews with over 100,000 successful people, hunting for patterns. They wanted to crack the code on what the most talented people had in common. From this mountain of research, they identified 34 distinct themes of talent, things like achiever, empathy, futuristic, and strategic. They developed an assessment called the Clifton StrengthsFinder to help people discover their own unique talents. What they found flips conventional wisdom completely upside down. People have several times more potential for growth when they invest energy in developing their strengths instead of correcting their deficiencies. Let me share a simple story from the book that makes this crystal clear. In Puebla, Mexico, there was this guy named Hector, known as the best shoemaker in the world. Customers would literally fly in from France to buy his shoes. But his business was barely surviving. Even though he could make hundreds of pairs of shoes a week, he was only averaging about 30. Why? Because while Hector was an absolute genius at making shoes, he was terrible at sales. And even worse, at collecting payments. He was spending most of his time drowning in his areas of weakness. Then a friend introduced him to Sergio. Sergio couldn't make a shoe to save his life, but he was a natural-born salesman who could close any deal. Hector and Sergio decided to partner up. Hector focused exclusively on what he did best, crafting world-class shoes. Sergio focused on what he did best, selling them and running the business. A year later, their small operation wasn't producing 30 pairs of shoes a week anymore. It was cranking out over 100. That's more than triple. Nothing about their actual skills changed. They just stopped wasting time on their weaknesses and poured all their energy into their strengths. This is the beating heart of StrengthsFinder 2.0. That old saying, "you can be anything you want to be," isn't just wrong, it's dangerously misguided. Tom Rath admits he spent years as a kid trying to become the next Michael Jordan, practicing for hours every single day, only to fail to even make the junior varsity team. Even Michael Jordan himself, the greatest basketball player of all time, couldn't become the Michael Jordan of baseball, no matter how hard he tried. More accurate motto, the book suggests, is this: you cannot be anything you want to be, but you can be a lot more of who you already are. So what exactly is a strength? This is where the book gets really practical. It gives us a simple formula. Talent times investment equals strength. Let's break that down. Talent is a natural way of thinking, feeling, or behaving. It's the innate part of you. The StrengthsFinder assessment measures this by asking you questions and giving you only 20 seconds to respond, because your gut reactions reveal way more about your natural talents than a slow, carefully thought-out answer. Investment is the time you spend practicing, developing your skills, and building your knowledge base. This is where the hard work comes in. Strength is the ability to consistently deliver near-perfect performance in a specific activity. Talent, the book argues, is the multiplier. Let's go back to Rudy. On a scale of 1 to 5, let's say his natural talent for football was a 2. But his investment was a perfect 5. He worked as hard as any human possibly could. His equation looks like this: 2 talent times 5. Investment equals 10. Now think about his legendary Notre Dame teammate, Joe Montana. Let's say Montana was blessed with a 5 in natural talent. Even if he only put in half the effort Rudy did, say a 2.5 in investment, his score would be 12.5, already sailing past Rudy's maximum potential. But what happens when someone like Joe Montana combines his 5 in talent with a 5 in investment? 5 talent times 5 investment equals 25. That's the difference between a heartwarming story and a legend. That's the power of starting with dominant talent and then layering on skills, knowledge, and practice. The talent acts as a multiplier, creating extraordinary room for growth. When you live and work from your strengths, the impact is staggering. Gallup's research is some of the most compelling you'll ever see. They've surveyed over 10 million people worldwide with one simple statement: at work, I have the opportunity to do what I do best every day. Only 1/3 of people agree. But for those who do, the results are life-changing. People who get to focus on their strengths every day are 6 times as likely to be engaged in their jobs. Think about that. Not 10% more engaged, but 600% more engaged. They're also more than 3 times as likely to report having an excellent quality of life in general. On the flip side, for those who don't get to use their strengths, the costs are enormous. They dread going to work, they treat customers poorly, they have fewer creative moments, and they achieve less. Perhaps the most shocking discovery came when they studied the impact of managers. They looked at what happens when a manager focuses on an employee's strengths versus their weaknesses, or just ignores them completely. The results are mind-blowing. If your manager ignores you, there's a 40% chance you'll be actively disengaged, or as the book says, miserable, on the job. If your manager focuses primarily on your weaknesses, that chance drops to 22%. But if your manager primarily focuses on your strengths, the chance of you being actively disengaged plummets to just 1%. Having someone in your life who sees and encourages your strengths is one of the most powerful catalysts for success and happiness. So what are these 34 themes of talent? They're simply a language to help us describe what's right with people. They include things you might expect, like competition or discipline, but also others that are less obvious, like connectedness or ideation. Let's bring a few of them to life, just as the book does, with real voices. There's the achiever theme. This describes a constant, internal fire for accomplishment. An ER nurse named Melanie says, "I have to rack up points every day to feel successful. Today I've been here only half an hour, but I've probably racked up 30 points already. I'm feeling pretty good about myself right now." For the achiever, every day starts at 0, and by the end of the day, they must achieve something tangible to feel good. A writer named Sarah calls it her divine restlessness. Then there's the activator. The recurring question in an activator's life is, when can we start? They're impatient for action. They believe that action is the best way to learn. You make a decision, you take action, you look at the result, and you learn. The book tells this incredible story of Jane, a Benedictine nun, who, during the energy crisis of the 1970s, decided her monastery should drill its own gas well on their 140 acres of land. It was a massive financial risk, but her activator talent pushed her forward. She gave the final approval, and fortunately, gas came bursting up. That well was still pumping 20 years later. That's the power of the activator. They make things happen. Or consider individualization. This theme makes you fascinated by the unique qualities of each person. You're impatient with generalizations and stereotypes because you see what's special and distinct about everyone. This is the talent that allows a manager to know that one employee needs public praise while another prefers a quiet, private thank you. It's the theme that helps you pick the perfect birthday gift. It's the secret to building great teams, because you know instinctively that success comes from casting people by their individual strengths. An interior designer with this theme explained how she figures out her clients' style. She doesn't ask them to describe it. She just asks, "What is your favorite spot in the house?" And from that one spot, she can see who they are and what they love. And then there's empathy. This isn't sympathy, which is feeling sorry for someone. Empathy is the ability to feel with someone. You can intuitively see the world through their eyes and share their perspective. You hear the unvoiced questions and anticipate the need. An administrator named Alice tells a story about a trustee who presented a new idea in a meeting, and no one responded. The idea just fell flat. Alice could see the devastating effect it had on her colleague. Later, she went to her and said, "Something's wrong. I really understand how important this was for you." The woman broke down and said, "You're the only one who heard me." That's empathy in action. It's the talent that builds the deepest human connections. There are 30 other themes, each with its own unique power. From woo, the talent for winning others over, to futuristic, the talent for seeing vivid pictures of the future. But reading this book, you might ask a very fair question. What about my weaknesses? Can I just ignore them? The book is clear. Absolutely not. The goal isn't to ignore your weaknesses, but to manage them so they don't get in your way. And it offers a few brilliant strategies. First, ask if it's something you even need to do at all. Can you just avoid tasks that play to your weaknesses? If you can't, the second strategy is to find a support system. If you're not good with details, can you use an electronic calendar or a meticulous checklist to keep you on track? But the most powerful strategy of all is to partner with someone whose strengths are your weaknesses, just like Hector the shoemaker partnered with Sergio the salesman. The author shares a personal example. He admits that the includer theme, the talent for making sure everyone feels part of the group, is one of his lesser talents. He can be so focused on a goal that he rushes to assemble a team without thinking about everyone who should be involved. So he's learned to partner with a colleague named Amanda, who is a natural includer. She helps him see who he's missing, which has helped them build stronger, more talented teams. This is the beauty of the strengths philosophy. It doesn't ask you to be a perfect, well-rounded individual. Instead, it encourages you to build a well-rounded team. The book also warns us about the blind spots of our talents. Our greatest strengths, if overused or unmanaged, can sometimes get us into trouble. Someone with strong command talents, for example, might be so direct and decisive that they leave a trail of hurt feelings in their wake without even realizing it. Awareness is the key. Knowing your talents helps you manage them, so you can use their power for good without falling into their potential traps. Ultimately, StrengthsFinder 2.0 is a book about application. It's not just about learning your top 5 themes. The 2.0 version of the assessment provides you with thousands of personalized insights, explaining how your unique combination of talents plays out in your life. It gives you 50 specific ideas for action tailored to your strengths. Because, as the author says, learning about your strengths is interesting, but it offers little benefit in isolation. If you want to improve your life, you must take action. The book ends with a short, powerful story. Mark Twain once told of a man who died and went to heaven. He asked St. Peter, who was the greatest general of all time? St. Peter pointed to a man nearby. "It's that man right over there," he said. The man was shocked. "You must be mistaken," he replied. "I knew that man on earth. He was just a common laborer." "That's right," St. Peter assured him. "He would have been the greatest general of all time, if he had been a general." That story illustrates the quiet tragedy that this book is trying to prevent, the tragedy of untapped potential. Far too many people, the book says, go from the cradle to the casket without ever uncovering their greatest talents. They spend their lives trying to be someone they're not, patching up their weaknesses and wondering why they feel so unfulfilled. This book is an invitation to take a different path, a path that doesn't ask you to change who you are, but to become more of who you are. To discover your natural talents, to invest in them, and to build a life around them. Because true excellence and true joy is found not in the struggle to overcome our deficits, but in the glorious act of soaring with our strengths. When you really step back and think about it, the message of StrengthsFinder 2.0 is both incredibly simple and profoundly countercultural. We live in a world that profits from our insecurities. We're constantly shown what we lack, and then sold a product or a program to fix it. We're told to be well-rounded, to shore up our weaknesses, to become something we're not. This book offers a radical alternative. What if the path to an extraordinary life isn't about fixing what's broken, but about building on what's already strong? What if your greatest potential for growth lies in the very things that already come naturally to you? This isn't just a feel-good idea. It's backed by decades of rigorous research from one of the most respected polling and analytics companies in the world. The data is undeniable. When people focus on their strengths, they are more engaged, more productive, and happier. They feel more authentic, more confident, and more alive. The story of the greatest general of all time, who spent his life as a laborer, is a haunting reminder of what's at stake. How many of us are living a life that's a poor fit for our natural talents? How much human potential is wasted every single day because people are stuck in roles that force them to focus on their weaknesses? The power of this book is that it gives you a language and a tool to begin answering that question for yourself. It gives you permission to stop feeling guilty about the things you're not good at, and to start celebrating and investing in the things you are. So how can you start applying this idea, right now, today? Here are a few simple actions you can take. First, just become an observer of your own life for the next week. Don't judge, just notice. When do you feel energized? When do you lose track of time because you're so absorbed in what you're doing? What kinds of activities do you look forward to? What do you learn quickly and effortlessly? These are the clues, the whispers of your natural talents. Second, ask for feedback, but in a specific way. Don't ask, "What are my weaknesses?" Instead, go to a friend, a parent, or a teacher you trust, and ask them this question: "When have you seen me at my absolute best?" Listen carefully to their answer. The stories they tell might reveal a pattern of talent you've never recognized in yourself. And third, the next time you're faced with a task you dread because it plays to one of your weaknesses, try a new approach. Instead of just gritting your teeth and trying harder, ask yourself the questions from the book. Can I avoid this? Can I create a system to make it easier? Or, most powerfully, is there someone I can partner with who is naturally great at this? This small shift from fixing to managing can be a complete game changer. That was a summary of StrengthsFinder 2.0 by Tom Rath. We've journeyed through the core ideas today, but I have to be honest with you. A summary is like looking at a travel brochure. It can show you the beautiful pictures, but it can never replace the feeling of actually being there. The real magic of a book like this happens in the quiet moments of reading, when a particular story or a simple phrase connects with you in a way you didn't expect. This summary is here to help you decide if this journey is right for you. If anything we've talked about today has sparked your curiosity or made you think a little differently, I encourage you to grab a copy. Reading it isn't just about gaining information. It's an experience that can genuinely change the way you see yourself and your place in the world. Also, if you found this summary valuable and you want to keep exploring the ideas in the world's most influential books, please take a moment to subscribe. It helps us continue to bring these summaries to you. Let's keep learning and growing together.